While America raced toward modernity, one community made 5 deliberate choices to step backward in time. Those decisions still govern every sunrise in Amish country. Today, we uncover the historical moments that built America's most enduring separatist society. Event 1. The Great Schism, 1693. In Switzerland's Emmental Valley, Jakob Ammann was about to split a church forever. The year was 1693, and this Anabaptist bishop believed his fellow Mennonites had grown too lenient, too willing to compromise with the world. The breaking point came over shunning. When members strayed from doctrine, should they face complete social isolation? Ammann demanded absolute adherence to this biblical discipline. His opponents argued for mercy and gradual restoration. What began as theological disagreement became irreversible division. Ammann's followers embraced stricter scripture interpretations, plainer dress, and rigid separation from worldly society. This wasn't merely another religious dispute, it was the birth of a distinct identity that would survive persecution, migration, and centuries of change. Event 2. The Atlantic Crossing, 1720s-1800s. By the early 1700s, European authorities imposed heavy taxes on Anabaptists, confiscated property, and threatened imprisonment for unauthorized worship. For the newly formed Amish communities, survival meant escape. William Penn's Pennsylvania offered genuine religious freedom. Penn, a Quaker himself, understood persecution firsthand. His colony welcomed religious refugees, offering fertile farmland at reasonable prices. The first Amish families crossed the dangerous Atlantic in the 1720s. These weren't casual immigrants, but religious refugees carrying everything they owned, determined to preserve their faith. Ship after ship brought families to Philadelphia's port, then inland to Lancaster County. Early settlers faced brutal winters and backbreaking forest clearing. Yet they persevered, establishing communities that became Amish America's foundation. By the 1800s, thousands had crossed, creating the largest Amish concentration ever seen. Event 3. The Invisible Constitution, 1800s. As Amish communities spread across Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Indiana, a problem emerged. Different settlements developed different practices. Some allowed certain technologies while others forbade them. The unity-defining Amish identity was fragmenting. The solution came through the Ordnung, an unwritten code of conduct agreed upon by each community through careful deliberation and consensus. Every detail of daily life would be governed by these collectively decided rules. The process was painstakingly democratic. Community members gathered for hours, debating whether innovations threatened their separation from the world. Should clothing have buttons or only pins? Could farmers use steel-wheeled tractors or only horses? What emerged wasn't uniformity, but a framework for preserving distinctiveness. Each community could adapt the Ordnung to local conditions while maintaining core principles. This invisible constitution became more powerful than written law. Event 4. Wisconsin v. Yoder, 1950s, 1972. In 1968, Wisconsin authorities arrested 3 Amish fathers for refusing to send children to high school beyond 8th grade. This educational dispute would become a landmark Supreme Court case redefining religious freedom in America. The Amish argued that compulsory high school violated their fundamental beliefs about childhood, community, and spiritual development. State officials insisted all children needed modern education to become productive citizens, viewing Amish resistance as backward thinking. Legal scholars recognized that forcing high school attendance could destroy Amish culture entirely. Teenagers exposed to modern ideas and individualistic values might abandon their communities forever. This wasn't about education quality, but cultural survival. The case reached the Supreme Court in 1972. Chief Justice Warren Burger delivered a unanimous decision favoring the Amish, ruling that compulsory education law violated religious freedom when applied to Amish children. Event 5. The Modern Divide, 1900s. Present. As the 20th century brought automobiles, electricity, and mass communication, Amish communities face their greatest challenge. How much modern technology could they accept without losing their identity? This question fractured communities across America. The trouble began with practical necessities. Farmers needed refrigeration for milk sales. Craftsmen required power tools to compete economically. Families wanted telephones for emergencies. Each innovation seemed reasonable individually, but collectively threatened the simple lifestyle defining Amish faith. Progressive leaders like Moses Beachy argued for selective modernization. His followers accepted automobiles, electricity, and modern clothing, while maintaining core religious beliefs. Conservative bishops fought back, warning that accommodation led inevitably to worldliness. The result was church splits creating dozens of distinct Amish groups, each with different technology rules. These divisions persist today, from ultra-conservative Schwarzentruber communities forbidding indoor plumbing to progressive groups using solar power and cell phones. These 5 moments created the foundation. But how do centuries-old decisions control the daily rhythm of modern Amish life? The true power of these events lies not in what happened then, but in what they continue to shape today. Every sunrise in Amish country reflects choices made generations ago. How the schism still shapes identity. Walk into any Amish community today, and you'll witness Jakob Ammann's 3-3-0-year-old decision playing out in real time. The practice of Meidung, or shunning, remains central to Amish life, enforcing community standards through social isolation that can last years or lifetimes. When an Amish person violates community rules, the consequences are swift. Family members cannot eat at the same table with the shunned individual. Business relationships end immediately. Even married couples may be required to separate beds until the offender repents. This isn't cruelty, but discipline rooted in Ammann's interpretation of biblical teaching. The goal is restoration, not punishment. Statistics suggest the strategy works. Over 90% of Amish youth choose baptism despite having opportunities to leave. The psychological impact runs deep. Amish children grow up understanding that community acceptance depends on conformity. This creates powerful incentives for maintaining traditional practices. The fear of social isolation reinforces every aspect of Amish culture. Yet Meidung also creates family trauma. Parents may lose contact with children who choose different paths. Mental health professionals report lasting effects from childhood experiences of witnessing shunning. Modern communities struggle with balancing traditional discipline against changing social awareness. Some groups have softened shunning practices, allowing limited contact. Others maintain strict enforcement, viewing compromise as dangerous accommodation. How migration created the Amish heartland. The decision to flee European persecution created the conditions that allowed their society to flourish. Today's thriving Amish communities exist because their ancestors chose America's frontier over European compromise. Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, became the epicenter because early settlers found ideal conditions. Rich soil supported farming without industrial methods. Geographic isolation protected communities from outside influence. Local governments respected religious differences. This settlement pattern created cultural density. When Amish families live within walking distance, traditional practices receive constant reinforcement. Children see plain dress and manual labor as normal. Community standards maintain themselves through daily interaction. The migration established Amish expertise in sustainable agriculture that environmentalists now study. Without chemical fertilizers or mechanized equipment, farmers developed crop rotation systems and soil conservation practices that maintain productivity across generations. Economic success followed cultural preservation. Amish communities show lower unemployment, higher savings rates, and stronger local economies than surrounding areas. Their businesses earned reputations for quality craftsmanship that commands premium prices. The geographic distribution still reflects migration patterns established centuries ago. Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Indiana contain over 60% of America's Amish population. New settlements follow the same pattern: rural areas with fertile soil and tolerant governments. How the Ordnung governs everything. Step into an Amish home, and every detail reflects community decisions made through the Ordnung process. The plain furniture, handmade clothing, and horse-drawn buggy all represent collective choices about living separately from modern society. The Ordnung's power lies in its comprehensiveness and community ownership. Rather than following rules imposed by distant authorities, families live by standards they helped create through congregational consensus. This creates psychological ownership that external laws cannot match. Consider clothing regulations, which vary between communities but remain strictly enforced. Conservative women may wear dresses with sleeves below the elbow and head coverings that hide hair. Progressive communities might allow shorter sleeves or different covering styles. These distinctions carry profound meaning within Amish society. They signal community identity and rejection of fashion trends that emphasize personal attractiveness over spiritual modesty. Breaking clothing rules indicates dangerous individualism. Technology decisions reveal the Ordnung's complexity. Most communities forbid ownership of automobiles and televisions while allowing limited business use. A carpenter might use power tools at job sites but cannot bring them home. These distinctions reflect careful reasoning about technology's effects on community life. Automobile ownership would weaken local relationships. Television brings outside values into homes. Computers provide access to information that bypasses community authority. Young adults face intense pressure during Rumspringa, between ages 16 and 21, when teenagers may experiment with forbidden technologies. Leaders tolerate this because unbaptized youth haven't committed to following the Ordnung, but baptism changes everything. Once an individual accepts membership, violations become matters for discipline, potentially including shunning. Baptism represents a permanent choice between individual freedom and community belonging. How educational limits preserve culture. The Supreme Court's 1972 decision in Wisconsin versus Yoder didn't just protect Amish religious freedom. It created an educational system that actively preserves traditional culture while preparing young people for adult roles within their communities. Today's Amish schools demonstrate how alternative education can serve specific cultural goals. Amish education prioritizes practical skills over academic theory. Students learn reading, writing, and arithmetic through 8th grade, but they also master traditional crafts, farming techniques, and domestic skills that will serve them throughout life. Boys learn carpentry, animal husbandry, and crop management. Girls master cooking, sewing, and household management alongside their academic studies. This practical focus reflects Amish beliefs about knowledge and its proper uses. Community leaders argue that excessive formal education creates pride, individualism, and dissatisfaction with simple living. They point to higher education's emphasis on critical thinking, career advancement, and personal achievement as fundamentally incompatible with Amish values of humility, community service, and acceptance of traditional roles. Teachers in Amish schools are typically young, unmarried women from within the community who completed 8th grade themselves. They receive training through Amish teacher organizations but lack formal teacher certification required in public schools. This system ensures that instructors share community values and understand local expectations for student behavior and achievement. The curriculum carefully balances academic instruction with cultural transmission. Reading materials include Bible stories, moral tales, and practical information while avoiding content that might challenge traditional beliefs. Mathematics focuses on practical applications like calculating crop yields, measuring lumber, or managing household budgets, rather than abstract theoretical concepts. Critics argue that limited formal education restricts individual opportunities and traps young people in traditional roles regardless of their interests or abilities. They point to Amish youth who struggle in mainstream society after leaving their communities, lacking credentials needed for higher education or professional careers. However, economic data suggests that Amish education successfully prepares students for adult roles within their chosen society. Amish communities show remarkably low unemployment rates, high levels of business ownership, and strong economic stability. Many Amish-owned businesses compete successfully with enterprises operated by college-educated entrepreneurs.
The educational system also produces impressive literacy rates and mathematical competency within its intended scope. Amish children consistently demonstrate strong reading skills, practical mathematical ability, and deep knowledge of their community's history and values. They simply learn different content than mainstream American students. How internal divisions define modern Amish life. The technology debates that began in the early 1900s continue to shape Amish society today, creating a complex spectrum of communities, with different rules about modern conveniences. Understanding these divisions is essential for grasping how contemporary Amish people navigate between tradition and necessity. At the conservative end, Swartz and